I'm all glittery this evening. I got glittery lips, I got glittery eyes, because I am heading off to my friend Jo's house for the annual Guy Fawkes night. So this is a British thing. This is a British celebration that comes immediately after Halloween. It's usually the 5th of November each year. And it's when we celebrate the burning of the Catholics. Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Anyway, if you missed it, last year I battled my way through a cold to explain what it's all about. So let's have a quick recap.
The Gunpowder Plot happened in England in 1605. But to understand the events leading up to it, we need to go back about another 70 years. As with many great tragedies, this one began when a very horny man noticed a rather pretty woman. This was further complicated by the fact the man was already married, and he also happened to be the King of England. Henry VIII is famous for having had 6 wives, but it's with the first 2 that the problem began. Henry's first wife was Catherine of Aragon, a Spanish princess. The marriage of Henry and Catherine helped cement relations between England and Spain, and both countries were staunchly Catholic at the time. These countries bowed to the Pope of Rome as head of the Catholic Church. The marriage started out well, but as the years rolled by and Catherine did not produce a male heir, Henry's eye began to wander. They eventually came to rest on Anne Boleyn, the sister of his wife's lady-in-waiting. Henry was so smitten that he wanted to ditch Catherine and marry Anne. But there was a problem. Under the Catholic Church, there was no such thing as divorce. Absolutely not. No way. It truly was till death us do part. Henry did try to petition the Pope to see if there was any way to get him off the hook, but the Pope said no. So Henry did what any of us would have done under the same circumstances. He founded his own religion. It was called the Church of England, and, as head of that church, Henry could set his own rules. He promptly divorced Catherine and sent her off into exile, declaring Anne his new wife. He actually went on to behead Anne, so it didn't really work out great for either of them. But that's another story. Henry eventually died without a male heir, and so began a game of musical thrones. His eldest daughter, by Catherine, became Queen Mary I. She was kind of hacked off at her dad for the way he treated her mother, and decided to restore Catholicism to England. She rounded up as many Protestants as she could and had them burnt at the stake, earning her the epithet Bloody Mary. Mary only lasted 5 years before she died, at which point her half-sister, Henry's daughter by his second wife Anne Boleyn, took the throne as Queen Elizabeth I. Like her father, Elizabeth was Protestant. At first, she didn't appear too bothered about controlling her subjects' personal beliefs, but that soon changed. At that time, England and Scotland were not yet united, and her Catholic cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, had a lot of support in England. In order to eliminate this threat and secure her crown, Elizabeth was persuaded to murder her cousin. This ended the Catholic threat in England, and Elizabeth affirmed this by passing a law that no Catholic could ever sit on the throne of England again, and indeed, none ever has. The same was true for prime ministers until as recently as 2013, when the law was amended. But arguably, there still has not yet been a Catholic PM. Tony Blair converted to Catholicism after he left office, so as not to cause a fuss, and Boris Johnson, although baptised a Catholic, later converted to the Church of England. Anyway, on with the story. Queen Elizabeth I was known as the Virgin Queen because she never married and had no children. On her death, her cousin's son, James VI of Scotland, became James I of England, uniting the 2 countries. At first, everyone gave a deep sigh of relief, thinking the religious strife would come to an end. But although James was slightly more tolerant of Catholics than his predecessors, he continued to impose the religious persecution. If you wanted to be excused from attending Anglican services, you had to pay a hefty annual fine. And if you were caught practising Catholicism too openly, there was still the possibility of execution. It was safest to at least pretend to be Church of England in public. It was in this atmosphere of heavy religious persecution that the Gunpowder Plot was conceived of by a staunch Catholic called Robert Catesby. Hatched with the support of noble Catholic families in Northamptonshire, the Gunpowder Plot was a simple one. Get rid of James I and replace him with his 9-year-old daughter Elizabeth as head of a Catholic state. To assist with this, Catesby recruited a gentleman by the name of Guido Fawkes. Guido was actually an Englishman from Yorkshire. On the death of his father, he had sold up his estate, taken the money and headed to Spain to fight for the Catholic Spanish in their 8-year war against the Dutch. He rose to the rank of general in the Spanish army, where he learned a bit about blowing things up. Catesby's plan was a simple one. Stuff the basement of the Houses of Parliament with gunpowder, wait until the king entered Parliament, then blow him up. Everything started out well. They rented a room next to Parliament, managed to fill the basement with 36 barrels of gunpowder, and were just waiting for the king to return from a hunting weekend. But then things went a little bit wrong. To this day, nobody knows who it was, but one of the members of the group had a pang of conscience. They suddenly realised that if they blew up the king whilst he sat in Parliament, they would also be blowing up a number of Catholic nobles who were sympathetic to their cause. So one of the group sent an anonymous letter to Lord Monteagle, one such lord from a traditionally Catholic family. The note was not completely explicit. It didn't say, "We're going to blow up the Houses of Parliament, best if you stay home from work that day." But it wasn't that subtle either. It stated that Parliament would receive a terrible blow. Little did the conspirators know at the time that Lord Monteagle's loyalty to the king would trump his loyalty to the cause. And the letter soon made its way into the monarch's possession. The words, "a terrible blow," made the king suspicious, and he ordered Parliament to be swept, uncovering the barrels of gunpowder in the basement, along with a man in scarf and hat, with a lantern and a box of matches. On his arrest, the man gave his name as John Johnson, but his true identity was soon revealed as Guy Fawkes. Catesby, realising that they'd been sprung, hightailed it up country. Even though the plot to blow up Parliament had failed, he still believed they could incite a Catholic uprising in the Midlands. They escaped with a couple of bags of gunpowder, which got a bit damp on the way. When they reached the safety of Holbeck House in Staffordshire, they lit a fire and laid the gunpowder out around it to dry. Now, it's a little-known fact, but gunpowder is extremely flammable. A spark from the fire went up, and it came down, igniting the gunpowder and engulfing Catesby in flames. Badly burnt, but still alive, his luck was about to get even worse, when the next day the Sheriff of Worcester and his men surrounded the building and managed to shoot Catesby dead. The rest of the men were rounded up and taken to London to stand trial. Now, in 1605, England was still executing people for witchcraft, usually single women who didn't fit into society's expectation of a good wife. It's a common misconception that witches were burnt in England. Usually they were hanged, but we did burn heretics. A heretic was a blasphemer, someone who denounced God, or the right God, being that of the Church of England. However, there was one crime above that of heresy. One crime so heinous that it warranted the worst possible method of execution. That was the crime of treason, to betray the king. If you were a woman who committed treason, you were likely to be hanged or burnt. But for a man, it got a lot worse. The method of execution was to be hung, drawn and quartered. This meant that on the day of execution, you would be taken from your prison cell, tied to the back of a horse and dragged through the street to your place of execution. You would arrive scraped and blooded, possibly with a broken bone or two. From there, you would be hoisted up by the neck until you were half dead. This meant being hanged until you passed out, at which point you would be cut down and revived so that you were fully conscious when they drew a line from your privates to your neck and removed parts of you that should not be removed. When you were finally dead, they would tie each limb to a horse and split you into 4 parts, sending each quarter to a different part of the realm to warn people what would happen to those who commit treason. Effective advertising, and very Game of Thrones. Guy Fawkes was to be executed on a platform facing the Houses of Parliament, a building that, had things gone to plan, shouldn't still be there. Fawkes waited until they placed the rope about his shoulders, then jumped from the platform, breaking his own neck and sparing himself the torture that was to follow. In the aftermath, King James passed the Act of Thanksgiving, thanking God that the king was still alive and making it law that the 5th of November, the day of the failed assassination attempt, be celebrated throughout the kingdom. In essence, it is England's own Thanksgiving Day. People celebrated by lighting fires and setting off small explosives, and originally by throwing an effigy of the Pope of Rome onto the fire, which was soon replaced by an effigy of Guy Fawkes. This law remained in place until 1859, but Brits have continued to celebrate Bonfire Night ever since, often with elaborate firework displays. Whereas the origins of the celebration are clear, it's uncertain why we continue to shout with such gusto for the burning of the Catholics to this day. According to statistics, the UK today is technically an atheist country, with more people holding no religion than holding a religion. And those who do hold a religion can hold any religion they like. The only explanation is that we Brits enjoy a good tradition, especially when it involves mulled wine and toffee apples. And as for Guy Fawkes, he is often referred to as the only person in history to enter the Houses of Parliament with honest intentions.
Welcome to Jo's garden. It's absolutely stunning. That's the centre of Kigali over there on the hill. Right, time to get started building the bonfires. In my home village in the UK, the bonfires can easily reach over 30 feet tall and require an entire fire department on standby. But in an attempt to avoid arson, we're keeping things far more manageable. It's not long before the flames take hold. Then it's time to start building the guy. And whilst everybody else gets on with the hard work, I tuck into my first mug of mulled wine for the season. This is red wine heated up with orange and spices. It's also called Glühwein in Germany, very traditional throughout Christmas and the winter months. As dusk falls, we tuck into the food. There's baked potatoes and samosa in the oven, and everybody's brought something for the table.
I love this existentialism we've got going on here.
Can we get both guys together?
Sorry.
Cheers!
Everyone say burn the guy! Burn the guy! Burn the guy! Burn the... She started it, not me! He started it, he's like
You know what? This is not politically correct, is it?
It's fun! Burn the guy! Burn the guy! Who's dying first? Time to burn the guy! Yes! Time to burn the guy! Time to burn the guy! Burn the guy! Burn the guy! He isn't going to fit! Woo! Hey! Woo! It's too big!
Okay, who's doing the other one?
Hey! Woo!
Your face is gonna burn!
Ah, children, such a tender age.
Yeah, so it's one of those cultural traditions that's really hard to explain to others. I guess there's just a little pyromania in all of us.
Got a two-tongue weight from my hairline to my backbone, and it's dragging me.
Another really traditional part of Bonfire Night is fireworks and sparklers. We can't have fireworks here, but throughout the year, families coming from the UK bring back a stock of sparklers, especially for this night. Even as an adult, they're pretty magical. If you swish them about fast enough, you can even write your name in light.
Devil to my right.
I love the bonfire. Yeah, I'm drawing.
Now, you got a stick in your hand and you're already on it.
Roasting marshmallows over the fire is another fun activity. They go all gooey and chewy, absolutely delicious. It's always a really lovely evening in a gorgeous garden, something that brings people together every year, and a fun little interlude between Halloween and Christmas.